listening to Lady-ish, where wellness gets unfiltered. This is the podcast where real talk meets whole self-transformation. I am your host, Autumn Noble O'Hanlon. I'm a coach, healer, author, and wellness guide, and I have created this unfiltered space for women who want more out of life, but on their own terms. Every week, we will dive into the messy, beautiful, and often contradictory layers of wellness, covering everything from career shifts and body image to energy healing, intuitive living, fitness, burnout recovery, and creating change that actually sticks. Whether you're chasing a new chapter, healing old wounds, or just trying to reconnect with yourself in a loud, overwhelming world, Lady-ish is here to support your evolution. You can expect honest conversations, coaching wisdom, holistic tools, spiritual insights, and permission to be a little bit of everything and nothing that you're not. Because wellness isn't one size fits all, and neither are you. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the podcast. Have you ever noticed how certain relationships just keep repeating themselves at work, with friends, or perhaps in your romantic relationships? Maybe it's the coworker who is always needing saving, the boss who micromanages every single move, or the partner who keeps pulling you into the same argument you swore that you would never have again. Different settings, but the same emotional script. What you're experiencing probably isn't random. It's something called the drama triangle. We all have these hidden patterns that play out in our lives. The drama triangle is one of those and was created by psychologist Stephen Cartman, and it describes 3 roles that people unconsciously slip into during times of conflict or stress. We have the victim, the rescuer, and the persecutor, whom I like to call the villain. Each role keeps us in the same loop of blame, guilt, and powerlessness, whether it's in a team meeting, a friendship, or a romantic partnership. Once you start to see this pattern, I promise you, you won't be able to unsee it, and it can be really life transforming. So let's go ahead and unpack each of these roles so that we can start to understand ways that they impact all of us in all aspects of our lives. We begin with the victim. Why does this keep happening to me? They ask. The victim is where I want to start because many of us, especially women, really get stuck in this role. The victim feels often very helpless, unseen, or misunderstood. Her brain kind of sounds like, I always end up doing all the work. He never really shows up for me. They don't appreciate anything that I do. The victim's energy often says, things happen to me, not because of me. There's a heavy powerlessness and a place of exhaustion with no solution in sight. At work, the victim might be the person who stays late every night, quietly resenting the fact that no one notices the effort or sticks around to support her. In love, she might be the only one giving endlessly, waiting for her partner to finally meet her halfway. Next, let's explore the rescuer who always says, I can fix this. The rescuer is the helper, the problem solver, the one who just cannot stand to see other people struggle. She often swoops in to soothe or to fix or to make everything okay for everybody around her. The problem is that underneath that is often a very deep need to feel valued, to feel essential. In the office, the rescuer might say yes to every request, take on extra work, and call it being a team player. In personal relationships, she becomes the caretaker who's very forgiving, accommodating, or overgiving in hopes that her endless love will heal someone else's wounds. The irony is that while the rescuer seems powerful, she's really stuck in the same triangle because her worth depends on someone else's dysfunction. In other words, her worth comes from fixing people around her that she is sort of deemed unconsciously broken and in need of fixing by who else? Her. Next, we have the persecutor or the villain. These are the people that it's all their fault. And the villain is the one that we often see as the critic, the controller, or the one who blames everybody else. Sometimes it's an overbearing boss or a partner who's always deflecting accountability. But sometimes it's our own inner critic, that voice that's always telling us, you should have known better. Why can't you get it right? You're the problem here, not them. That inner villain keeps us feeling small and it punishes us for simply being human. So let's talk a little bit about why we get stuck in the drama triangle now that we know who all of the players are. For many of us, we play one of these roles because they feel really familiar. Many of us, especially women, were taught from a very young age to be more accommodating, to keep the peace, and to make everybody around us feel more comfortable. We learned that love and approval are earned by giving, fixing, or sacrificing. So when things start to feel unbalanced, whether it's a demanding partner or a really draining workspace, our instinct isn't to step back. Our instinct is to try harder. And when that doesn't work, we collapse into helplessness, thinking, geez, maybe I am the problem. And that's the victim again. And the triangle sort of resets itself, and around we go. I'll truly never forget the first time that my coach said to me, here's the drama triangle. Which one are you playing? And I think for a lot of us, it's very shocking and hard to hear that we slip into this victim helplessness role because a lot of us don't think of ourselves as victims or powerless. But when you look at the way we talk about these dynamics and we ask ourselves what the solution is, the second that you hear yourself saying, there's nothing I can do, there's nothing I can do about it, this is just the way that it is, that is a huge red flag that you are stuck in the victim role and that victim mentality of helplessness and no control. And I think if you hear nothing else today, no matter how much you believe that there is no solution, you have no control, in every moment of every day, you are making choices. And that means you have some modicum of power. You choose to get up in the morning. You choose to go to work. You choose to pay your bills. You choose to stay at that job. And you may have lots of reasons for doing all of those things. But your power and recognition that you're not a victim, all of that comes in owning your reasoning for those choices and recognizing that they're choices. You're choosing to stay, you're choosing to do those things. You may feel like your rationale doesn't really leave a lot of room for negotiations, but the truth is, there's always choices. You can go live on the street, stop paying your bills, let your house go into foreclosure, become destitute. Those are choices that people make all the time, but we choose not to make them for our reasons. And as long as those reasons make sense to us, that's all that matters. But I think what a lot of us overlook is the victim, no matter how powerless you may feel, you are making choices. And the second you start to own that, it allows us to let go of some of those feelings of helplessness because it might shift into, yes, I hate this job and I hate the way my boss treats me, but I'm choosing to stay here because it pays the bills, because I haven't found anything else. I'm choosing to stay in this relationship because I'm too afraid to see what it's like to go be with somebody else or to file for divorce. Owning those choices and those rationales is a mechanism of accessing power. And that I think is the biggest takeaway in recognizing the triangle is just owning that no matter what role you're in, you have choices to make. And those choices can take you out of the triangle or they can keep you stuck in it. Because here's what we want to recognize about why we even stay in these roles. They give us something. There is an emotional payoff to slipping into the victim, the villain, or the rescuer. Each role gives us some type of emotional benefit. The victim gets sympathy, and the rescuer gets all the significance and the reward of fixing everything for everybody and bending over backwards. The persecutor and the villain, they get control. But the cost to all of those trade offs is authenticity. We stay in the drama and we stay out of our truth. Because anytime you're experiencing frustration in your life, it is almost always an indication that you are not fulfilling your intentions, meaning you're not showing up the way that you want to. You're not setting boundaries. You're not pushing back and saying no and speaking your truth. And so when we choose to stay in those roles, we do trade off that authenticity and we fester in the frustration that comes with living inauthentically and not showing up in alignment with those greater intentions of who we want to be. Ultimately, we just trade the drama for truth and we trade real connection for emotional survival, or I guess just playing it safe and easy. So, how do we get out of this cycle once we start to recognize it? The first step, shocker, is awareness. When you find yourself thinking, why does this always happen to me? Pause and ask yourself, what role am I playing right now? When you feel the urge to fix someone else's problem, ask yourself, am I rescuing this person and trying to fix them, or am I supporting them in their own evolution? And when you catch yourself judging or blaming even yourself, ask, what part of me is hurting underneath this criticism? I want to shift a little bit and talk about a different dynamic that can take us out of the drama triangle. There is this really powerful reframe called the empowerment dynamic by David Emerald Wommeldorf. And it transforms each of those dramatic roles into empowered, strong individuals. In this scenario, the victim becomes the creator who is focused on what they can control and what choices they do have. The persecutor becomes the challenger, offering truth and accountability without shame. The rescuer becomes the coach, supporting others, encouraging them without taking over and doing it for them. In the workplace, this could look like saying, I'm happy to help, but I can't take that on right now. Or let's brainstorm a few other options together instead of jumping in and fixing it or doing it yourself. In relationships, it might sound like, I love you, but it's not my job to manage your emotions. Or I choose to stay only if we're both willing to do the work. These are really small but powerful shifts from helplessness to choice and from blame to ownership. We do have the ability to reclaim our power in both our professional and our personal worlds. When we stop identifying as the victim in love or at work, everything changes. We stop waiting for the boss to notice you, and we stop hoping that your partner will suddenly become emotionally available. You stop rescuing everyone else to feel valuable, and instead you start creating your own reality. You start communicating clearly, setting boundaries, and showing up in your full worth. And that kind of energy, confident, grounded, and self led, it changes every dynamic that you're in, and people around you will notice. So if you've ever been living in the drama triangle, be gentle with yourself. We all play these roles. They're learned patterns of survival, they're not character flaws. But healing begins the moment that you decide to step out of the script and write a new story. So the next time you find yourself thinking, why do I always end up in this situation? Try asking instead, what is this situation trying to teach me about my power? Because when you shift from victimhood to authorship, from fixing to creating, you stop living in reaction to others and you start living in alignment with yourself. And that, my friends, is where real connection in love, in work, in life begins. As I've mentioned in my previous episodes, I've been doing a lot of shadow work, and our shadow self is often at play in falling into these dramatic roles and parts in the drama triangle. If you want to be the first to hear about my release of these upcoming workbooks to help you heal and transform those shadow parts of ourselves that keep us in victimhood or keep us rescuing those around us, head over to my website, autumnnoble.com, and get on the email list to be the first to hear about those workbooks when they are available. And keep listening to hear more about some exclusive content I'm going to be releasing on the podcast. Think something along the lines of audio shadow workbooks that are going to be coming your way, where you can tune in every day and listen to prompts and exercises to help you do shadow work through the podcast rather than through a journal if that's just not your thing. Be sure to continue listening to hear more about when that will be available. As always, thank you so much for listening, my friends, and thank you for sharing this with those in your network who could also benefit from this information. It really helps me touch as many lives as possible and reach out to women who really need to hear this information. And as always, be sure to continue listening for a complimentary companion meditation that I'm going to be releasing in the next couple of days. That meditation will help you explore that shadow self that plays a part in the drama triangle and will help you move forward with peace and ease.